Welcome back to Burnout Banter. If your to-do list has doubled and your stress level has tripled since October started, you're not alone. There's something about Q4 that makes everyone feel like they're behind, even if they're right on track. Projects accelerate, metrics matter more, and every team seems to be in go mode, whether they're ready or not. In today's episode, we're talking about the fall frenzy, the seasonal shift where urgency becomes the norm and burnout often follows. We'll dig into why this happens, how to tell the difference between actual priorities and perceived pressure, and what you can do to stay grounded as the pace picks up. Hi, everybody. My name's Jeff,
And I'm Rochelle.
and this is Burnout Banter. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Amazon, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen so you never miss an episode of the banter. So, have you experienced this fall frenzy, Rochelle?
I have famously said that I need to take October off every year because it is the most crushing month for me. So, yes, I've experienced fall frenzy. Have I taken October off? No.
You find October is worse than November and December?
It is. I don't know why. It's like everyone's racing to get things done before November and December. Like we have to get things done before, holidays start picking up and all the stuff that comes with that. And so it just crushes into October somehow.
Yeah. I tend to see it on the project side more leading up to Thanksgiving. And then the time between Thanksgiving and Christmas is terrible.
Terrible as in like there's a ton going on
Oh,
or
everybody tries to cram so much stuff into those 3 or 4 weeks. It's awful. And how many deadlines we set right at the holiday or right before the holiday. And it just,
I
you work yourself up so much and work so hard that by the time the holiday comes around, it's like, oof, it's all I can do is to sit here and do nothing. And you don't really get to enjoy the holiday.
true. I think the last 3 or 4 years I have had a proposal deadline the week of Christmas. So either like on the 24th, I had one due on the 25th once, or the 26th, or my favorite is the January 2nd deadline. Where you know they're not going to look at it. No one is looking at anything for those 2 weeks between Christmas and New Year and the first week into the new year. But we have to race to get stuff on into inboxes or uploaded to portals so that when people come back from their holidays, they get to do it on their own time, which drives me crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a project that I'm working on right now where the deadline for one deliverable is right, it's about a week after Thanksgiving. And then the overall deliverable is about 2 weeks after we get back from the Christmas break.
Well,
And I say break in air quotes because that's only if you're brave enough to take it.
I was just gonna say who's actually taking that break.
So I'm right there with you. It's like we don't even think, right? And like we have QC scheduled over both holidays. It's like, who's going to do that?
No, no one.
Yeah. So it just compresses that then down into a much shorter time than you need. Oh, yeah, we gave you 2 weeks. Yeah, but one of those weeks is a week where nobody's going to be here.
Thank you so much. You're very kind to give us that
Yeah.
week.
Yeah. I also think with a lot of firms, like this is kind of year-end budgeting
Hmm.
plan for next year time. So you've got the project deliverables sitting, coming up against the business type deliverables.
Right, right. It's time to take a look at all the metrics, see how we're delivering, start planning for next year. I think that's part of what piles up on marketing. We're trying to close out this year while also starting to look ahead of
Yeah,
next year.
I agree with that. Have you ever worked for somebody who makes it seem more urgent than it is in this time of year?
Yes, but I think my issue with the people I've worked with in the past has always been that they haven't found anything to be urgent. They see those 2 weeks as like, oh, we have 2 whole weeks to get this thing done. And they don't take into account the fact that one of those weeks is a holiday and nobody's going to be around or they're not going to be around, so they don't factor in the urgency. I feel like I have the opposite problem.
I was just going to ask if you were the one, if you were going to take yourself to task for creating the urgency.
I should. It is me. It is going to be me. If anyone's going to create urgency, it's going to be me looking at the calendar going, oh my gosh, we can't get this done. We have to do this now.
Yeah. So what
Yeah.
do you think creates that urgency or that, whether it's real or not?
Ooh, that's a great question. I feel like it's like a result of overwhelm. I don't know. I think we just have so many things on our plate that we switch from like thinking about things strategically to almost survival mode. Like we just have to get this done. We just have to get this out the door, on to the next thing, on to the next thing. And so that creates this like crazy sense of urgency.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
I think, and this is kind of silly, right? Because just because the calendar ends doesn't mean like we've magically run out of time. But I think the fact that we all get so worked up about like, oh, I'm going to get all this stuff done this year. And we're now like in the time where it's like, ooh, maybe I'm not going to get all this stuff done this year. And I'm running out of time to get it done, but I still want to. And so I think as much as like time is a big thing for most of us throughout the year, I think it becomes like hyper, I want to say magnetized, but that's not the right word. I'm thinking about
Magnified.
magnified. That's it. Thank you very much.
I got you. I'm here.
A little brain moment there.
Because of the frenzy pressing in on you.
So yeah, it's just everything gets magnified at this time of the year, and we perceive the lack of time as a threat. And our response to that is to become more frenzied and have everything become urgent all at once so that we can try to get as much done by the time the calendar ends as we can, even though like January 1st is just another day.
No, Jeff, January 1st is when I'm going to change my whole life with all of my
Oh,
resolutions
yes, I
that I'm
forgot.
not going to think about until December 1st.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, right, is it becomes more important to like just check the box and say I did it than it
Yeah,
necessarily does to like do a good job. I know that's how,
doing this, like,
yeah.
yeah,
I know with our projects that's how it is, right? Like you want to say you're done with a certain phase because then I can invoice for that phase and get this money coming in before the end of the year. I think that's a big push too, to, kind of boost financials for the company for the year at the end of the year.
yeah, back to those metrics, got to make Q4 look real nice, close out that year strong. That's a lot of pressure.
There's a lot of pressure. I think another thing that happens is like I know you're going on vacation and I don't want to be stuck having to pick up your slack. So I'm gonna pressure you to get your stuff done so that I don't have to do it while you're gone and vice versa, right? So
I was just gonna say on my end, if I'm going on vacation, I am scrambling to make sure everyone else gets their stuff done so that I can finish my stuff so that we can all be relaxed while I'm gone. And that's not happening.
yeah. And then I think, if you look at like some of the people who support the industry, it's like, oh, can we just get this thing done? So like everybody else's thing that was there last minute, oh, I just want to get this done this year, it becomes somebody else's.
Yeah.
And when 15 or 20 people are being like, ooh, can you just do this? Can you just do that?
Can you just is never can you just. It's
Yeah.
always a significant ask.
Yeah. So I think it's really important to differentiate between like real urgency and manufactured urgency. So what are some things you would maybe consider to be like real urgent things that we might want to get done by the end of the year?
I mean, I guess on my side, marketing side, the most real something can be is a client deadline, right? Like proposal is due on this day because I have no control over that. But manufactured stuff comes from me, like, oh, I want to, finish my marketing budget by this time, which probably does have like a real internal deadline, but might have a little more wiggle room. But like if it's something it's those glass balls, rubber balls, right? Like if I don't turn in this proposal or I don't get this interview team prepped, glass ball breaks, shatters, we don't get another shot. But like redoing our brand or updating our social media or sorting through and organizing our photos, all my want to do's by the end of the year.
Yeah,
That's that manufactured urgency, I think, for
those are
us.
good examples. I think they're, on my side, like a code may be changing when the calendar turns, right? So like as of January 1st, a certain AHJ may be following a different code. And so there is a real reason to try to get a project done so that you don't have to deal with what that could potentially mean for your project. Or maybe it's aluminum prices are going up January 1st or something, something like that, where we know a price hike is coming on a certain commodity and that can impact a lot of things. So there are some real things like that exist, but even companies would probably disagree with me, but even the I need to get my financials up for the year end is probably not, doesn't really fall under real urgency. It's more manufactured.
The financial directors I know want to have a word. I think that's a hill they're willing to die on, but I agree. That's an internal manufactured date.
I think another thing that happens at this time of year, right, is it's bonus time. And so the more balls I can juggle, the more urgent I can get things done, the more valuable I'm perceived as, and maybe that has an impact on my bonus at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think that's a slippery slope. That's the pack mule unicorn theory. Again, 1,000 times. Shout out to Janky Diploma for that. But the more you do, the more you shoulder, the more you overburden yourself does not equate to value.
Yeah. And I don't think people, if I haven't performed all year, I don't think I'm going to trick anybody by ramping it up for the last 2 months either.
Oh, you've cemented your brand. At
Yeah.
that point, they're gonna see right through you. They know what's going on.
Yeah.
But nice try.
Yeah. And I think sometimes, like, responding to things quickly, like if our own state of urgency is heightened and we're responding to things really fast, that can lead other people to think that they need to do it. Or, if I'm trying to get my thing done and I'm pressuring everybody else to, respond yesterday, or I need this yesterday, or it's so important, then that creates a false sense of urgency too.
Yeah, I think our leadership needs to be very aware of that because, people kind of look to you and that sets the tone of what your team is doing. But
So, what are some things you could potentially say to help if somebody comes to you with something that is, I'm air quoting again, urgent?
I feel like there's a fantastic way to ask this, and I'm forgetting how Jen phrases it, but the idea of, is this an urgency for you or for me? Right? Why do you need this done yesterday? Why do you need this right now? I always
Oh,
ask for marketing, like, when is the client deadline? Can you give me more information on this so that I can prioritize myself instead of it being dictated to me?
yeah, I mean, asking what the consequence is if it doesn't get done immediately.
Yeah. Yeah, if I don't get you that resume in the next 2 hours, are we like, is the world gonna end? Am I getting fired? Is it actually okay? Because we don't need it until Monday. You were just trying to knock things out.
Yeah,
Very different situations.
yeah, for sure. So, can you think of anything where it's like escalated super fast, but it really wasn't that important?
That's
Or
every marketing request ever, Jeff.
every marketing request ever? Okay. Man, that was a loaded question. I just set you up to knock that one down.
I wish we did video so you could see Jeff's face as he's asking this question and seeing my face be like, really? Is this what you're asking me? That resume example was real, where I've been given a request to turn around a resume within an hour and then come to find out it's like Wednesday and we don't actually need it until Monday. And it's also not actually for a real marketing project. It was just like someone's personal thing that they're working on or submitting for. Very. very angry marketers if you do that.
Yeah. I just had an example on a project where I had somebody work the weekend before to try to get out ahead of something because it was due on Friday. And then they worked all day Friday until 5 o'clock to get it done. They turned it in, and none of the rest of the team had their stuff done. And it sat until Wednesday of next week until it went out.
What, my goodness, I would be so mad.
Nothing burns your goodwill like that, huh?
That's like going back to school when you had to do group projects and it was like just that one person carrying the entire team and the entire team doesn't do anything. We don't do that in professional world. Like that's not cool.
Yeah,
But also, I would ask, did that person create that urgency to work through?
potentially. They potentially did. Yeah, did they need to do that? I don't know. But, they were looking at their week ahead and trying to plan out, and here's everything I have to get done. And, let me try to get out ahead of it a little bit. But I bet on Friday afternoon, they probably wouldn't have been working till 5 o'clock if they knew nobody else was going to be done.
Yeah, you
Even
can't
if
really
you
do
did
anything
work the
about
week.
the weekend, but at that point,
Yeah.
that's rough.
So I'm going to ask another really stupid question for you here.
Load it up
Have you ever worked in a company where urgency was the culture?
again.
Every company you've ever worked for.
Every company I've ever worked for, including my own, which was my fault.
So why is that a bad thing in your mind?
I mean,
I
when
mean,
you're
how's
constantly in urgency mode, like when everything is on fire all the time, then you're just jumping from one fire to the next, and you don't get any breathing room, and you start to feel like you're not doing quality work anymore. Like you're just kind of a machine churning proposals out or interviews out or collateral out, and it all starts to blur together. Not ideal.
Yeah, I mean, urgent, always urgent teams are always burned out.
Yes.
They create a lot of mistakes. There's a lot of errors that are happening because you're going too fast.
Yeah.
And I think innovation kind of dies in a company like that because you never have time to think
I
about,
would,
is there a
yep.
better way to do this? Could I improve it? That just, it's not even a thought that crosses your mind.
No, so much of good marketing is creativity, but when people hear that, I think they often think like, ooh, we laid this out in a really cool way, or we made this look really cool. But really, what creativity is in marketing is figuring out the best way to communicate a piece of information. And that might be a cool layout, but there's a reason that layout is so cool. Like it does something very specific. And if you don't have time to think through that stuff, you don't have time to create and innovate on that, then yeah, you're just turning out templated stuff, junk. And nobody wants to do that. Nobody's proud of that. Ugh.
Yeah, on the project side, you end up, like you may have a solution that works through just, kind of plowing your way through design, but was there a better solution that would have worked better for the client that would have cost less? All those things get kind of abandoned when you're under pressure and just rushing to get something done. You don't think, you just do. And I think a lot of what we do in this industry is about thinking and having that reflective time. I mean, creative architectural buildings didn't come out of somebody just plowing through it and trying to hit a deadline, right? They actually had time to think and come up with something creative to do.
Right? I sometimes wonder how like Frank Lloyd Wright or Gary or whoever, like, would they have handled modern day pressures and urgencies and pace? Probably
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, there's also a lot of blame that shows up, right? When we're in that kind of a culture and we don't trust our coworkers, our teammates.
Leadership
Um,
starts
yeah,
making bad decisions. You don't trust them either.
yeah. High performers tend to probably internalize that sense of panic.
Guilty.
Quieter team members might disengage from it.
Guilty.
And I think when newer, younger people come into a company or, and see that culture, it's like, oh, being busy is what my value is. And that's what they're shooting for, not knowing that there could potentially be a different way.
Guilty.
Guilty. Yep. Yep.
But that's why we have this podcast, because we've both seen the light and we're trying to stop that.
We sure are. So, how do we reset that? How do we get out of this fall frenzy? That's what everybody wants to know from us, Rochelle.
What? No, they just want to hear us bantering. I think we have to sort through all of the things that are on our plate, right? And figure out what is actually urgent. Like, again, glass balls, rubber balls. What has to be addressed right now? What is truly time sensitive? What is, maybe just obnoxious? Someone in the room yelling the loudest about their ask is maybe not the most urgent ask. They're just the loudest ask. And we need to figure out what that is. We also need to understand, like, is this something for me that I personally need to handle, or is this somebody else's emergency? Like, what is that phrase? An emergency on your part doesn't constitute, or lack of planning on your part doesn't constitute an emergency on mine.
That doesn't create an emergency on mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'd figure that out too. That's the starting point, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think if you have 100 urgent or very important things, then really nothing is urgent or important. I had a situation happen last week where two people thought their stuff was highly urgent and important,
Uh-oh.
and we were stuck in the crossfire of that thing. And I think both things were important. Were they as important as each other was making them out to be? Probably not. And, when we're stuck in that mode that this is the most important thing, then there's no room for compromise. There's no room to find a solution that works for both parties. And that was kind of what we found ourselves in, and had to use some stern words to work through that.
What are the words to use in that
Yeah,
case?
I mean, just said like, look, it looks like, in my opinion, both of these things, both of these projects are highly important. They're both very important clients. And we only have two people who can address you're asking to be in multiple places at the same time. They can't do it. So, what can we figure out so that everybody's taken care of? And, some sacrifices are going to have to be made on both sides.
That was very diplomatic.
And there was some of calling people out where I had to kind of say that that was not okay.
Good. I expect nothing less from you, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll leave it at that.
That's fine. We won't out you here for being mean.
Yes, I think there's some things we can do, right? We can audit our tasks to see what really is urgent and whether we can do that on our own or with other people. Maybe we might need more people than just ourselves. And one thing I said to those two people is, why don't you two talk and see if
What?
you can figure out, like, if somebody can come to me and be like, yeah, well, I talked to this person, it's really not that important. Great. That solves the whole thing. But we have to talk to each other and figure out what really is most important.
Communication
Yeah.
usually solves most problems.
Yeah. you know, yeah, communication, right? Can we clarify the actual deadline on this? I'm happy to jump in. Are there any critical pieces I should focus on first?
Ah, I like it.
I want to support this, but let's make sure that we're aligned on our other priorities this quarter.
Also love that.
Yeah, I can't do
Getting
everything.
needs to take note
I'm
of that
happy to
one.
I'm happy to reprioritize this, but what are we going to deprioritize in order to make that happen?
Yeah, happy to get you that resume this afternoon, but that means I can't work on your proposal this afternoon. So which one do you want?
Yeah. And I think as leaders, right, like, don't model the crazy, urgent, frenzied behavior. No shouting, I need this now. I needed this yesterday.
You did not, or you would have asked for it yesterday. Maybe
We
slowing
we can
down.
even praise calm, right? Like, point out the people who are being calm, who are not frenzied, that are modeling the positive behavior.
Perfect.
I think there's some things we can do as a team. Let's have a meeting once a week and decide what's urgent, what's not urgent. Even huddling at the end of the day, to prepare for tomorrow. Okay, this is what we said was most urgent or the highest priority today. This is what we got done. What's the highest priority for tomorrow?
I really like that one for teams that feel overwhelmed because I think
Yeah.
that daily touch base is a really nice way to say, like, this is what we've gotten through, this is where we need to go, this is the priority. I like that one a lot.
Yeah, I have a friend who's a takeover CEO, so he gets brought in when things are not going well in companies. The companies are about to fail. And that is the first thing he does everywhere he goes is a daily stand up. What is your plan for today? What did you get done yesterday? Are there any things in your way of getting done what you need to today?
Perfect. I love that.
Yeah. So what's one thing you've been treating as urgent, Rochelle, that might not be?
All of the things I do are urgent, Jeff,
Says Rochelle the boss.
says Rochelle the boss, who doesn't know how to slow down before responding to things. Honestly, we've got a lot of really, really big plans for Pi next year, and I've just been excited about them. So I've been like rushing to get them done and set up for next year, when realistically, I have other things I need to get through, and I can probably punt those a few weeks, if not a few months. So that's my problem with urgent tasks, is they're often driven by what I'm most excited about.
I think that's fair.
That's not a great way to do business. Invoicing, gross. Not going to do that right now.
Yeah.
And your new logo, beautiful, wonderful. Definitely need to do that right now.
Yeah.
What about you? What are you putting off? What's urgent?
Trying to get my college football team in NCAA 26 to a national championship game. It's been a big urgency for me, and it's probably something that's not that important.
That was not the answer I expected. I don't know what I did expect, but that wasn't it. That was great.
No, but seriously, like there's some like training things and things that I want to do with my team that they could probably hold off, especially if we're gonna make a big push on projects and we're short staffed. And so, yeah, some things are just gonna have to wait
Yeah.
that I would have liked to have not waited on.
Compromise. Can only do so many things.
So now I'm going to ask you another stupid question because we both worked in this industry most of our careers. Have you ever worked for a team that believed calm was a competitive advantage? And if so, how do you think that would change things?
I don't know if I've worked for a team that believed that ever, but I have finally found a manager who embodies that idea, and I am deeply appreciative of it because it gives the team permission and space to think through things. Like, not all of the team members are on board with this. Some of them are still in frenzy urgency mode. But it's really nice to have someone in a leadership position saying, take a breath, let's plan first, now jump in, instead of, you know, everything's piling up. And instead of looking at it all and doing that audit that you were talking about earlier, you just start chipping away at it with no plan. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, never in the industry have I had that. Have you? Or I feel like you are that.
I know. I was just going to give myself a little kudos there, but I'm glad you gave it to me instead.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I wish I could have worked
Yeah,
with you, Jeff.
it's funny because when we were buying our house, my realtor, who I've known for 20 years, I think I've told you this, he says that I go between a 2 and a 4 kind of on my level of urgency or excitement or intensity. So I think I'm pretty calm. But have I worked for, yeah, I've worked for bosses who were calm. It makes a huge difference. I've also worked for people who are frenzied, and that is not very fun.
No, no. Can still hear bosses screaming across the wall.
Yeah, I mean,
Not great.
just having time to think can make such a difference in what we do. And you kind of have to be calm to create that time and space to think.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Any other things you want to cover on this fall frenzy topic before we dive into our burning question?
None for me. I think we captured Fall Frenzy pretty well.
Okay.
And now it's time for burning questions.
Let's do it. Burning
All right.
question.
So our burning question comes from a design engineer at a mid-sized MEP firm,
Okay.
and it's not me, although I resonate strongly with this question and have asked it myself many times.
Good clarification.
Every year, it feels like project schedules forget the holidays exist. We'll get a milestone deadline scheduled for December 23rd or January 2nd, and everyone scrambles, even if the work isn't actually urgent. How do you push back on poorly timed deadlines without sounding like you're not a team player?
I feel like everyone is always afraid to be the person that raises their hand and says, "Hey, anybody think about this?" So, like when this happens with proposals, when an RFP drops and it's got terrible, terrible deadline, that is the first thing I do now is just try. Just try to push back on the procurement people. And I try to appeal to them as humans, like, hey, you're probably celebrating with your family. My team would like to celebrate with their families. Like, can we push this an extra 2 days or 3 days, whatever it is? Just are you aware that you chose a day after the holiday? Sometimes it works really well and they're like, oh, yeah, totally. Wasn't even paying attention. Especially Thanksgiving. People always forget because Thanksgiving isn't on a consistent day.
Yeah.
So I get a lot of Friday after Thanksgiving deadlines. And when you point it out to them, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Let me change that, which is very nice. Sometimes they don't. But I think it's just an issue of you got to raise your hand. It's not being a team player. It's probably that the rest of your team also wants to raise their hand, but they're afraid.
Well, I think what's interesting is if you look at the idea of a team player, well, like what's a team player to you? How would you define that?
Someone who plays well with others.
I would agree. But like
This is a
also,
trick question, Jeff.
well, if you let's just say you look at a football team, right? If there's 11 people out there and one person doesn't do their job, the whole thing falls apart, right? So a team player is doing what's best. They're doing their job, but then also that benefits the rest of the team.
Right.
And I think when you look at this situation, right, like how could you be more of a team player than looking out for the well-being of your team by pointing out that nobody's going to want to work over the holidays? Whereas if we just stick our head down and say, oh, I'm being a team player and everybody's hating life, like you're going to get a much worse outcome on the project or on whatever it is that you're working on than if everybody rests and takes the holidays and isn't begrudgingly doing whatever it is that they're supposed to be doing. So I think even in just standing up like for everybody else, like you said, even though nobody will, you are being a team player. Now, it may not be the kind of team player that somebody wants who's trying to force the deadline down your throat, but
Right.
still, I'd much rather work with people on my team who are willing to stand up for me than I would some everybody who's just willing to take whatever comes their way. That may
I
just be
think fair point. Fair point for sure. I think I was afraid where you were going with that was it sounds like this person might have been saying they want to push back, not vocally, but just push back as in like, well, it's not actually urgent, so I'm not going to do my part until it actually needs to be done. That wouldn't be team player.
no, for sure.
Not
But
do that.
yeah, but saying like, hey, do we actually want to commit to this team? Because I
I
would
do.
like to spend time with my family team. Wouldn't you like to spend time with your family team?
Yes, team. Yes, I would.
And like you said, right? Not you're not always going to get your way,
No, but you're definitely not going to get it if you don't try.
but you're not being a team player by raising your hand and trying to stand up for everybody, whether you get it or not.
Agreed.
And if you don't get it, then yeah, you may have to buckle down, and that's when, I guess you can decide if you want to be a team player or not and keep your job there. But
Different question.
yeah. But I mean, I've had that happen where like we worked on a new hospital and doing schematic design for a new hospital should take 3 months probably, like to do a good job. We won the project like the Wednesday before Christmas week. They wanted the schematic design there of the Wednesday after Christmas break. And everybody just did it, even though our office was supposed to be closed.
I'm sorry, that's 3 months of work in 2 weeks over the holiday.
Yeah, that's
Is
what
that
they
right?
thought.
Okay. Okay, just making sure.
Yeah.
Insane.
So yeah, sometimes it happens, but then right, I would look at that as okay, I get that my team just gave up their week off. What am I going to do to make that up to them? Right?
Yeah,
Get
absolutely.
this next week off afterwards or whatever, right? Like you just sacrificed for us, so I got to make it right.
Yeah, what is the balance on this for sure?
Yeah.
I
I
just
don't know that happened. So
like that.
I did not volunteer to work on that project.
Did you get voluntold to work on the project? Okay.
No. So did we answer their question, do you think?
I think we did.
All
If we
right.
did, they can email us. Would love to continue this conversation.
They sure can. So if you have a burning question, we'd love to hear from you. If there's something you've been wrestling with at work, whether it's burnout, boundaries, bizarre end of the year deadlines, you just want somebody to vent to, you can send your burning question to us at burnoutbanter@gmail.com and you might just hear it featured in an upcoming episode. If you like what you're hearing, be sure to follow or subscribe on your favorite platform, Amazon, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, wherever you tune in. So you're always up to date with the latest banter, tools, and truths about burnout in the AC industry. And if you need help at an organizational level, if your team's feeling the heat, they're very frenzied, we're here to help. Rachelle and I can offer custom coaching, training, programs designed for your firms that are ready to take burnout seriously and build a healthier culture. So again, just reach out to us at that email, burnoutbanter@gmail.com, or find us on LinkedIn and we can start a conversation.
Amazing.
All right. We'll see you next episode.
See you next episode.